Hello everyone and welcome to yet another video podcast here on the War Bonds channel. If you don't know me, my name is Eric. I'm a locomotive engineer by profession, an avid model railroader, and just a lifelong rail enthusiast. Well, I started a series about doing a passenger car. And while that's still going on, you guys have just really been blowing up this channel to the point that, man, this is just so cool, and I'm just really excited about a lot of things that you guys are interested in and a lot of things that I still have yet to present. So, as you know, I did the series on my freight car builds in 1-inch scale. However, I've had a few comments of people telling me how much they liked one of the examples that I showed when I was talking about having done some stuff in G scale. So, one of my favorite projects, probably one of the best projects that I did in G scale, was the day that I found a combine in a Hobbytown, USA hobby shop. Found this 1/32 scale combine, and for many years I've been saying that I wanted to do a combine on a flat car. Now, I grew up in West Central Illinois, and there was a John Deere factory nearby. So when they would get enough of the combines produced, they would actually send them out on trains. So I just decided it would just be so cool to actually do a flat car with one of the loads. Now, back in probably about 1997, 98, in that time frame, I worked for a company called I&M Railway. I remember coming out of Chicago, out of the Belt Railway of Chicago Yard, or BRC Railway, and I had about 30 of these empty OTTX flat cars, which is they're trailer train flat cars, and they have the reporting marks of OTTX. And primarily they're used for hauling combines or heavy machinery or, what have you. So I had about maybe 30 of these on the head end of this train that I took out of there, and 3 big SD45s. And wow, I remember running along probably about 50 miles an hour, going through the suburbs of Chicago, and I had to set the brakes for something, a speed restriction or something, and so I'm going along, and I set a little air, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa! And almost those brakes clamped on so good that it just felt like, it yanked me back into my seat. It was so cool that these things responded so well. But anyway, beyond that, that's one of the things that made me think about it, because that's one of the biggest experiences I had in my actual railroad career with those cars. So I just decided that, just one of those projects that I want to do one of these days. So, like I said, I happen to be in a Hobbytown, USA, and all of a sudden, I find this combine. Now, even though the G scale that I was working with was 1/29 scale, this was 1/32 scale. But, so it's actually the true scale size for what I was doing, but even though 1/29 is, I guess, a slight derivative, but we could get into all sorts of different scales that go under G scales. So, but we're not going to do that. So we're just going to be talking about the one thing here. But anyway, because I did 1/29 scale and I found this 1/32 scale combine, I thought, well, you know what? The difference is so minute that nobody's really going to notice it at all. And even just telling you about it, I totally forgot about the size difference. So it's that minute that it doesn't make any difference. But as I've said before, there were a number of people that made some comments in the comments section about how cool they thought my G-scale stuff was. So I, primarily do 1-inch scale stuff on this channel, since that's basically what I do now. But I thought, you know what? It would be cool to actually take that and actually talk about it, because after all, this channel is all about model railroading or railroading in general. So we're going to talk about that today. Now, one of the things that was actually really cool about doing this project was the fact that it was actually featured in the spring edition 2020 of Garden Railways magazine. Of course, that was the last magazine article that I've written, but one of the reasons that my channel actually became more important to me is that I tried to do some more magazine work, and unfortunately, I started getting some rejection from the editors, which initially I was a little disappointed, but you know what? It's been so much more fun being able to make a video because I don't have to work with cranky editors about, oh, well, you need to shorten up the length of this, or you need to give me more of this, more of that. This is my thing. So I don't have to work for anybody else except you guys. And you guys have given me the greatest support, which is why I continue to spend the extra time to make these videos. But anyway, a friend of mine named Eric Rasmussen was the one that donated the prototype photos. So unfortunately, I never got more than one copy of the magazine. But Eric, if you're watching, we're still using your material. And I thank you so much that we can keep it going and that you were kind enough to donate to us. So without further ado, let's get into this project from start to finish, making a John Deere combine load on a Scratchbuilt OTTX flat car. In this first view, we see the underframe being fabricated and ready to be put together. These cars had extremely heavy-duty underframes because they carried such heavy equipment. And now the underframe is more intact and all the side bracings are together. Now we see the deck here, which I used some boxcar siding that I mounted to 80,000 styrene in order to make individual pieces. I actually had to go out and buy a drill press in order to drill all the holes, which there were about 800 holes that I had to drill. Here I'm using some sandpaper in order to rough up the surface so that when I later stain it with indigo ink, it makes it look like it's got wood grain. Now we see the sides of the car and the ends being fabricated. Here's another view of the deck as we've got that weathered, rotted wood look to it. Now here's the combine taken apart as I was preparing to remove the wheels so that I could actually mount it as a brand new combine. And here we see the wheels have been taken off and it's actually sitting on the frame test fitting. This was another picture that got put in out of order, but we could still see that this was a time that I was testing to figure out whether I was going to take the wheels off or keep them on. Now here we see the 800 nails that I had to drill, or excuse me, nail into the wood, but quite a bit of work, but it was worth it. And now we start to see the underframe here. We also see some C-channel that I was able to take, mount it into the center, and also use fishing weight in order to add extra weight to the car. And now everything is starting to come together. The C-channel has been mounted in, and now the sill has been covered up. This was some brass tubing that I used with some styrene inserts in order to make a basis to mount the trucks to the car. Now we see that the tube has been mounted in there. I drilled a hole in order to get the screw in order to screw the truck to the car. And now we see the underframe again with all the brake appliances added, as well as the ends where I've got the coupler box mounts. Now we see the car getting ready for paint. Here it is, completely unpainted. And here it is with its yellow paint applied. Now the top was actually taped over just so I had a clean surface in order to be able to glue the deck on there. Now I've got some painter's tape on there because I'm going to spray some brown on there for weathering effect. These cars have such a low profile that they get dirty. Now while it doesn't make sense there, in the next shot you'll see where I actually added some heavy grime to it to blend it all together. And now the combine is getting prepared to be mounted onto the deck of the Flatcar. I used some washers to show the axle hubs and a little styrene for the axle hubs there and some washers as well. And now we see another view of the deck with the weathered wood and the nails to represent bolts. And now we finally have it out in a cornfield, looking as if she's traveling along the right-of-way in order to get to the next dealership. I'm not very good at scenery, but the diorama that I made actually came out pretty good. And for the chain that holds the wheels onto the deck of the Flatcar, I actually went to Walmart, picked up a little girl's chain that was very inexpensive, cut it to length, and painted it with some brown rust color. And the boards that the combine is actually sitting on, separating it from the actual deck of the Flatcar, were just little scraps of wood, balsa wood that I used. And the last and final shot is at Crete, Nebraska, where I was near a rail yard, and tried to compose the shot to make it look like it was actually sitting in the yard. Well, that's the short documentary of my start to finish on my OTTX Scratchbuilt Flatcar with combine load. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Every time I do one of these documentaries, it's always cool to go back and just to see what I've done, because every single project that I do has some kind of challenge to it. And this one, like others, took me several months to do, just because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to build this, figure out what materials I'm going to use, how am I going to mount trucks under it, how am I going to do this, how am I going to do that. So there's all sorts of variables that I have to come up with in order to figure out how to make the project successful. But many of you have given me encouragement at times when I say, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and it ends up coming out just fine. So this was definitely a fun project. It was one of my favorites. It was something for years and years I said it was on the bucket list that I was going to do. But like I said, it ended up being a magazine article in the spring edition 2020 of Garden Railways magazine. So that's actually a really cool accomplishment there as well. Like I said, it's just really cool to be able to create something that nobody else has. But since I'm in the 1-inch scale mostly now, it's awesome to be able to create things that nobody else has, especially wood models. So as all of you who have stuck around with me in this journey and allowed me to demonstrate the God-given skills that I've got, because I don't know how I do it sometimes either, but it's really awesome to share this stuff with you and to come up with new ideas. And there's definitely more stuff down in my basement that I need to bring out and start getting some work done on to get finished so that I can give you even more content. So I've been thinking that there's going to be some time that I might run out of model projects and things to do. So I have to come up with some more things to discuss on the channel. But I was actually with a really good friend of mine who unfortunately is in a nursing home right now due to having MS. But while it sucks to see him in that condition, his mind is still there, and it's so awesome to sit with him and talk about railroad stories and things like that. And at one time I said I was going to write a book about railroad stories, and it got put on the back burner. So you never know. That might be something that I end up doing, is telling a few railroad stories, because oh boy, do I have some. But anyway, I hope that like I said, this has been fun, and it's definitely been fun for me to put this all together. So until the next time, we will meet again. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoy this content, I ask you to please like and subscribe. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next video.